What is good, all of our listeners and viewers? Welcome to another episode of Games and Groceries. My name is Adam.
I'm Liz.
And I own 6 of the same t-shirt. So we're filming our podcast now. How you doing, YouTube? If you're watching this t-shirt right here, I own 6 of them because I've embraced minimalism. So that means less clothes, less stuff, and more insanity. Because, it gives you more time to be insane.
I thought it was supposed to save your sanity.
Oh, that's true. Oh, man, I got to take notes on this. But, Liz, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
It's summer. It got real hot real fast.
It did. It's kind of warm in the studio. And plus now we have lighting. So
it's extra warm?
Extra warm in the studio. But you know what? We want to give you guys a film podcast to watch on YouTube because we're building up that audience. We want to focus on YouTube. But do not worry because we will always have the audio version of these podcasts on all the same platforms that you listen to on. But we're now putting it up on YouTube video style. So we are not going to be doing movie minutes today because we want to give more time for our guest today, Nick DePalo, the developer behind Adam's Ascending, which was the closer for the Kind of Funny Games E3 showcase.
Yeah.
So before we get to him, we'll talk about some gaming news. But before we get to the gaming news, we just want to remind everybody to follow us on the social medias. You can follow us on Twitter at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
And you can follow us there. Be friends with us there. Be friends with us. Yes. As well as Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. Check us out there for gaming updates and updates about the podcast, as well as gaming memes. You can also check out our website, gamesandgroceries.com, where you can listen to all of the podcasts from the website, find out where you can listen to them, as well as read some articles that I write and I post onto the website. And finally, if you're listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you can rate and review us, give us your 5-star ratings, your honest reviews, and just let us know if you would like us to read those reviews on the podcast. Just email us, contact@gamesandgroceries.com. And if you would like us to read your reviews, just let me know in the emails. I think that's all said and done. We want to get started, give more time to our guest, Nick DePalo. But before we get to him, let's go into our first segment.
Top 3 Gaming News.
The top 3 gaming news is the gaming news that we saw in the past week, and we like to rate it 3, 2, 1. There we go. First time filming the podcast, but we want to rank it 3, 2, 1 and give you a condensed version of what's going on inside the gaming industry. So let's start off with our number 3 gaming news, Joseph Fares. Number 2, no, I'm just kidding. Number 3, Joseph Fares is teasing a follow-up game to A Way Out, but it is not A Way Out 2. So if that name sounds familiar, Joseph Fares, you might know him from his games such as A Way Out, which came out, I believe, last year or 2 years ago.
It was last year. We played it this past year.
Yeah. Last year, A Way Out, as well as his game Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. But now he's teasing up a follow-up game. He did not give a name or how long it's going to be. But in an interview with, Rock, Paper, Shotgun, Fares is going to say that it is going to be something with an intense story with the Haze Light style. So we played A Way Out together. What do you think of Joseph Fares' style of games?
I really enjoyed it. It was a good balance between narrative, but also a little bit of combat and shooting. I enjoyed A Way Out. It was interesting, and the story was amazing.
It was fantastic, especially Brothers Tales Two Sons. That was fantastic, but he says that it will be a story. But what's even better is that a quote within Rock, Paper, Shotgun says, "I like to make the player really not know what's going on, like a roller coaster ride." And he said there's going to be twists and turns, and he's going to be screwing with your mind, except he didn't say screwing with your mind. He said something that we're not going to say on the podcast because we're clean, family friendly. But he's going to be screwing with your mind. He says there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, and he said he's going to screw up your mind every 30 minutes of the game.
Wow.
Every 30 minutes,
That's
the
very
game.
specific.
Yeah, like every single scene, it's just going to be like messing you up. He also says that the next game is going to be insane mechanically, actually. Insane mechanically. It's impossible to get tired of the next game, he says. This might have online co-op similar to A Way Out did. So very excited about this, but this is now official that Joseph Fares is teasing a follow-up game. So
I'm excited.
very, very excited.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Moving on. But yeah, definitely keep your eyes on that. We will keep you updated if there's any more news about that front. But moving on to the number 2 gaming news, Phil Harrison, who is the head of Stadia development, Phil Harrison confirms that Google will not remove your purchased games, even if it stops being on the platform. So we know that a lot of times digital distribution, such as Alan Wake, there's been a couple others in the news where suddenly these games just stop being sold to new users, whether it be for rights or mostly actually just rights.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do not have the rights to sell this game anymore to new players. And we've been seeing that a lot more, especially Telltale games are now coming off the market. But Phil Harrison promises that you will still have access. So if the publisher or developer removes a game from Stadia, from the Stadia store, you will still be able to access the game if you have purchased it in the past. There may be a time where publishers no longer has the rights to sell. This is a quote from Phil Harrison. A time where publishers no longer have the rights to sell to new players. It will still continue to be available to existing players. So that's very exciting news. This is really good news. We have not gotten our hands on Stadia just yet.
Yeah.
But if you're not familiar with Google Stadia is a streaming service for video games. No longer are you going to be downloading games onto a hard drive. You're going to be streaming it, very similar to Netflix, Hulu, where you just press play and you watch the movie right there and then. Same thing with Stadia. You're going to be buying access into streaming a video game.
Yeah.
No.
I think the best way to compare it to is Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Because you have the option to stream some for whatever the monthly fee is. You have the option to have them temporarily. You also have the option to purchase the games to permanently have for yourself. But it's still only on that online forum. So I think that's honestly like the best comparison for people is Amazon Prime, especially when it comes to this like purchase, but they might not have the right to sell it after that. So I think it is kind of along those same lines and the best way to explain it in its current position. I mean, we're still a long way away from Stadia actually being released, and who knows how much it can change.
And that's the thing. He did say that it will be in your Google accounts. He didn't really say Stadia account. He said your Google account, which is highly confirming of everything. But that's the worry here is that when you stream a game that you don't have access to, it's kind of hard to picture that even if the game comes off of the streaming service, that you can still stream it if you purchased it. But this is actually very comforting to know that you'll still have access to it. But there's also a survey that's been conducted by GameIndustry.biz. This is coming from European gamers talking about streaming video games. According to the survey, 70% of gamers, that's the UK, Germany, Spain, European countries, 70% of gamers are not interested in streaming their video games, and only 3% are actually interested. Only 3% are actually interested in streaming their video games. So I think this is a lot to take in. We have a lot of confirmations. We have a lot of worries, but here's where the deal lies. We still haven't gotten our hands on fully capable streaming video games on a platform. We were skeptical when Netflix came out with streaming. Yeah. So I really have no opinion on this just because we haven't gotten our full hands on the mainstream. We've gotten PlayStation Now, which is terrible, but Stadia still hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, I think before we can judge it too harshly, we really have to wait for it to be finalized, finished, and even give it time to grow. It's a new concept. It's still a growing concept. Who knows, in 10 years, you know? Yeah. You never know.
You never know. But, yeah, so we'll see what this is like once Stadia comes out and we have it in the mainstream market, but time will tell. However, it is now time, speaking of time, it is time for the number one gaming news, and this is all about Tim Sweeney on Twitter.
Our favorite person to talk about.
Again, Tim Sweeney once again goes on blast on Twitter to exclaim that he is the savior for all digital platforms on PC. He once again claims that exclusives are the only way for Steam to change. The only way. So on Twitter, Tim Sweeney was replying to somebody on Twitter saying that, well, why do you have to nab exclusives away from Steam? Why can't you make your own games? Why can't you make your platforms better? Why is it only you have to nab away exclusives? Sweeney replies, we believe, now I'll get back to that, we believe exclusives are the only strategy that will change the 70-30 status quo. The 70-30 status quo, if you don't know, is about the cut that Steam takes. So if a developer puts their game on Steam, they will get 70% of the revenue, but Steam will get 30%. That's a large margin. Mm-hmm. However, Epic only takes away 18% of that margin, whereas Steam takes 30%. So let me read that tweet again. We believe that exclusives are the only strategy that will change the status quo. What I don't like is where he said, we believe this is the only strategy, right? Moving forward, he says the 18% such gains are generally split between reinvestment, profit, and price reduction. More competition leads to more of 1 and 2, which is reinvestment and price reduction. And he totally ignores profits. Now, here's the thing that gets us so upset about this. And this is our last point. We want to get to our guests today. But Tim Sweeney, you're a business. You pay employees. Why are you trying to pretend that you don't care about your profits?
Yeah. I mean, there is that off chance that what he said in the very beginning is true, that once Steam fixes everything he wants fixed,
right,
he'll just shut down Epic Game Store and be done.
Oh, yeah.
Which, honestly, I feel like at this point, even if that is true, so you just wasted people's time, people's money, people's energy on doing a Robin Hood project when you shut down Steam and just go back and do what they were doing before.
What if people really were invested in the Epic Game Store? They bought all their games on Epic, and then you say like, oh, Steam fixed itself.
Bye-bye.
Well, bye-bye. It's just that here's the thing. We understand that businesses need to make a profit. We're not trying to say like down with a man. We're trying to say that stop trying to pretend that you're the Robin Hood for PC gamers. Yeah. Just say that, hey, listen, we want to be a competition. We want to be better than Steam. We want to offer more than Steam. And this is our price cut. Stop trying to pretend that you started Epic Game Store just to battle with Steam. Mm-hmm. Just do why you wanted to do this and just say, hey, we believe in developers. We ourselves are developers. Gears of War. I'm not going to mention the other game that you make. But we are developers. We know what developers want. And we want to make a storefront for developers. And just stick with that. Stop with this whole white knighting.
Yeah, fix Steam. Gotta fix Steam. Like, no, fix your own store, because honestly, Epic is not a very good competition for the customers.
Exactly.
It's good competition for the developers, but no one's going to buy these games if Epic continues to be a terrible platform.
Exactly. We just want Epic to become their own business, their own business philosophy. They should have their own philosophy instead of just comparing themselves like Samsung does with iPhone. Yeah. Like Samsung does what iPhone doesn't. How about you're just Epic?
Yeah. I mean, it's good to have that healthy competition of like, well, this is our competitor. How can we be better than our competitor?
Yes.
But they're saying like, we're doing this to help Steam realize what they're doing wrong. Like, no, just do it because Steam doesn't do it.
Exactly.
It's just ridiculous.
So we just wanted to briefly cover the top 3 gaming news. Just to clarify, or just to sum up everything, Joseph Fares teasing a follow-up game to A Way Out, but is not A Way Out 2. Phil Harrison confirms that Google will not delete your games even if the games get off of Stadia. And Tim Sweeney is the Robin Hood of PC gaming, but he's actually a business. I think that's enough for our top 3 gaming news. We just want to introduce our guest, who is, as I said before, Nick DePalo, who is the developer behind Adams Ascending. He's such an encouraging person, such an inspiring person. I know he's got a lot of wisdom to bring to the audience here, so we hope that you enjoy what he has to say. Let's just bring him on right now. Here's our guest, Nick DePalo.
It's interview time.
So we have here our guest, Nick DePalo. Say hi, Nick.
Hello.
So Nick is coming to us from San Jose, California, and the most important part is that he's developing a game called Adams Ascending. It is not named after me. Maybe it is. We'll find out. But Nick, introduce yourself. What's Adams Ascending like, and how you got involved in game development?
Yeah, Adams Ascending. Well, I'm Nick DePalo. I've been developing Adams Ascending for about 3.5 years solo, and just got on this journey. I don't have any coding experience, but I said, hey, I feel something in my heart. I got to go after this, and you live and you learn, and you go from there. So I started the process, and I am where I am today, building this game, trying to build something special. And Adams Ascending is just a game about exploring, solving, and surviving. You go through this island you've crash landed on. It's a supernatural dimension of your own soul, and you have to explore it to find answers about who you are, about finding your lost father who you believe has ended up on this island, and just finding out answers to find out where he is and to get you and him back home. That's a short little synopsis. Hopefully that's good enough. But that's pretty much the gist of Adams Ascending. It's about finding who you are as the player goes through. You're diving deep in your own personal soul and tapping into it to find answers about how to play. So trying to do something unique.
Man, I love it. Yeah, when I saw it on the Kind of Funny Games E3 showcase, I saw it and I was like, this looks amazing. I love the sci-fi realm. I love where the narrative is going. So then I looked into a little bit more of your story. I was like, wow, this guy is just really, really determined. I definitely want to bring him on the show just to spread more encouragement, spread inspiration to others so that they can just achieve their goals as you are.
I appreciate that, man. There's so many times I'll watch something, like I'll even see that showcase. It's tough, and because you watch it like, oh, it was a great moment, but then you're like, man, this needs to be better. This is not good enough. Or you set such a high standard for yourself. So when I hear people say, man, this looks so good, or, this is great, it's super encouraging. But it's also, I know there's so much more that I haven't even had time to invest into the project yet, which is coming very soon. So I'm excited to get to that phase and blow things out of the water in a positive way. Man, but yeah, thank you. Thank you. I was shocked, too, to be on the Kind of Funny Games showcase. So it was big thanks to Greg Miller and the team there doing all their stuff and hustling and bustling and giving someone like me who's cranking it out in a little mini office this game every day when I can to have an opportunity to shine. So yeah, it's been an honor.
Man, well, we can't wait to play it, man. Definitely can't wait. Definitely keep us updated about that. But you're gonna have plenty of time to do interviews, talking all about Adams Ascending. Here on Games and Groceries, we love to ask our guests questions to get to know them as people. We're starting off in this video podcast, so I'm staring at this lens, not sure what to do, but we're gonna start with 5 questions for you, just to get to know you as a person a little bit better. So our very first question for you is that in your videos, you stated that you got in your love of gaming through the PlayStation 1. We want to ask you, what are some PlayStation 1 games that bring back the most memories for you?
Yeah, you give me goosebumps, man. PlayStation 1. And
man.
And to everybody, I'm a lover of all video game consoles. So no,
all right.
Way. But I do love PlayStation 1 was the gateway drug, I guess you could say, to all the wonderful joys of gaming. And I think there's 2 games that stand out a lot. One is Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation 1. Not sure if you've ever played it or ever heard of it.
Yeah, it's a smaller game. Yeah.
Yeah, just this little game. But yeah, that game is massive in my own heart. And I think it's not only gameplay, and people always lean on gameplay, but to me it was the sounds, the environments, this vibe of really feeling like you're in this world. And I think before I even knew what that was, that's something that attracted me to playing games. And Metal Gear Solid was one of the first to really immerse me. Not only in cinematics and you got these cutscenes, that's one thing, but it was literally walking through this world and seeing a puddle and hearing it drip, or a drop of water hitting the puddle, and your feet making sounds when you walk through the puddle. It's like all these little things that make you feel like you're really in this cold. The island was called Shadow Moses Island, and thinking about an island, maybe even that has been an influence in Adam's Ascending of like, here's one location, fill it out with detail.
Nice.
and levels, and it's probably that's always been rooted within me, before even making Adam's Ascending. So that's probably somewhere in my conscious where this came out of, this idea. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid, that's 100% that I could. I used to go around, not to dive too deep, but I used to go around making voices and trying to sound like Snake and all, and even the main character of Adam. I guess I kind of tap into this more hardened, painful character with some voiceover, because I'm doing the voiceover myself, because this is pure. I'm a pure indie game. When someone says indie, is changing over time, but that's one of the games that really has inspired me. Hopefully that answered your question on that side. I have maybe one more that really probably changed my life. Not my life, but changed the way I played games, which was an influence from my cousin. I used to hang out with him all the time when we were little growing up, and he was always hooked on Resident Evil. And that's a game that I didn't know what it was. I sat there and it would give me nightmares, and I was just totally immersed into this world. And again, I think it was the atmosphere. And again, there's something about games being in one location and really being immersed. Oh, here's a mansion. You have to explore this. It's full of details. You're trapped. Try to get out. And I think even the recent success of Resident Evil 2 remake that just came out, people are going nuts about it because it's just this one place. It's this one place to fully explore and dive deep into. And I think that's something that, has stuck with me forever. And I love that idea. So hopefully, those are if you want to dive deep into more info on why, feel free, let me know. But those are two games that really stuck out to me right now as you ask that question.
No, those are some solid choices, man. I'm sure a lot of PlayStation 1 owners would completely agree with that. And I believe Metal Gear Solid, that was included in the PlayStation Classic, but not Resident Evil.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I haven't picked up a Classic, but that game has been, sitting there and telling me, pick me up, buy a Classic, just to play this game. So it's been really pulling. It's always about time for me, and I have been so cramped with time, so it's tough to jam in even a classic game like that in now. But I like how it stays in my memory. It stays more vivid in my memory. I don't want to shatter any beautiful nostalgia I might have with it by playing it again. Maybe I'll be like, "Ooh, this is totally different than I experienced."
Yeah,
but it's definitely a great game.
Man. Well, you also talked about time crunch. You talked about not having enough time. However, I've seen you're in fantastic shape, might I add. And last week we talked about, no problem. We talked about being fitness and a gamer. We just want to ask, as a developer with not much time, how do you stay in shape? What's your diet like? What's some favorite fitness routines that you have?
Yeah, staying in shape. To be honest, I feel like a slob every day. So I'm my behind sitting in a chair a couple hours a day working on the game. But yeah, I guess I tried to just weave it in. Just to give you some background, I was I wouldn't say obese, but back in my middle school days, I was a big sloppy mess and would eat myself full of Twix candy bars all day, every day, and totally binged in some great greasy food. But then over time, went through high school and got into some athletics there, and kind of learned to be very disciplined, not in the sense of eating, but in the sense of, hey, take time in your day to do this, and then you could enjoy this more often. And then that's when my discipline of watching what I ate and balancing a workout started building up. And then from there, before I got into the game industry, I worked in the film industry for about eight to 10 years. And a lot of the stuff we did was doing documentaries for bodybuilders and Mr. Olympia. It's the
Nice.
big event that Arnold Schwarzenegger used to do. So we did a bunch of documentaries and was always around these super fit individuals and athletes and learned some more things from them. And then as I transitioned into making the game, time has been insane with trying to fit everything in there while balancing a regular job, balancing working on this game, being a dad, being a husband, and just doing everyday tasks in between. The way I try to do it is just, eat healthy in the morning or have a bowl of oatmeal, and then try to fit time in between to do, okay, this morning I'm waking up, I'm doing 25 sit-ups and 100 25 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. Like, all right, that was all I had time for my workout today, which is honestly what it has been. It's been like a little routine there or here, or on a Saturday, I'll ask the wife, I say, hey, let's go for a jog, and we'll jog to like a kid's park. We're starting to do that now, and just do a couple pull-ups on like a kid's playground somewhere, and try to balance out at least doing some type of activity. But I think it really does come down to what you eat,
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. I think if you eat a well-balanced diet, it doesn't need to be some, chicken and broccoli every day.
Right.
But just try not to eat like 25 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, and you'll be fine. Try to be like, all right, tonight for dinner, I'm having this, and I'll stay away from some carbs. And then in the morning, have some more carbs instead of at night, and kind of balance it out. But I think life's all about balance, whether you're making a game or working or trying to work out, balance is the key in staying shape for me. And I'm not in some incredible shape, but I just keep it going. I want to reach 120 years old. So I got a ways to go. So I got to stay there.
I like that goal. Yeah. Trying to stay alive until the 120. I like it.
120, man. That's the way to go.
Right on. All right.
Well, hopefully that answers your question.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Staying balanced.
Yeah. Balance is key. That's what I always say. It's like, I always tell people, it's all a matter of what are you eating, man? Like, you can do all these workouts, you can go all these gyms, but what are you eating, right? And if it's 25 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, you're not going anywhere.
I guess it's 25 cheeseburgers in general.
25 cheeseburgers in general.
Like, I don't think any amount of 25 cheeseburgers from anywhere is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's if I have something crazy in the morning, or like recently I've noticed like, I got to be careful because I'm Italian, so I love having my little espresso in the morning, and I love having an espresso with a cookie, but I'm like, oh, this cookie's starting to catch up with me every morning. So now I've substituted that cookie with like some honey in my coffee instead, and being like, all right, honey's a little better transition than, a chocolate chip cookie with my coffee and breakfast. So yeah, just finding little things like that to still enjoy your food, but substitute it for something a little healthier.
I like it. All right, Liz, why don't you take the third question we have?
Okay. So Adam was saying how in your videos you're such like a bubbly person. You've got like this amazing, crazy personality. So what led you to become such an encouraging person?
Oh, there's a lot of factors. I guess I'll start off by saying I've realized that your tongue, your mouth has the power to turn your situation into life or death situations. What comes out of your mouth makes a difference. and I know I've been on the side of, I've gone through hard things before, and I've realized, yeah, it's hard, but you could make it even harder by speaking the negative of the situation. Like, oh man, I'm going through this. This is horrendous, man. I'm never getting out of this, and never da 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 da. And you start going down this rabbit hole, and what you start speaking, you start believing. What you start believing starts happening, because that's where your mindset is. And I've 4 or 5 years ago, I lived on the East Coast in Florida, and me and my fiance at the time, we just said, from 2011, we said, hey, one day we're gonna move to California. One day, like every day before she would go to work, we'd say, we're gonna do this. One day we're gonna have a home. One day we're gonna have a family. I don't see anything at that moment in 2011 that would say that's what's coming, but I always say, you probably have heard it a million times, faith it before you make it, So we're just faithing it, speaking life in the situation, and just, wanting that to happen and pushing through that way. And then we moved out here, and it was still super tough. And I'm giving this all these details because it's leading up to a big major point I want to make. But yeah, we moved out here, and it was tough, and we were sleeping on the floor with ski clothes to keep us warm because we came from Florida. Wow. So 70 degrees California felt like 30 degrees for us because we were from Florida. So we're sleeping in sleeping bags, but we're like, all right, the door's gonna open, and we're gonna find work, and we're just gonna keep going forward. We know we're here. We felt like we were supposed to move out here, and this is why we're here. And then doors started opening for her, for me, and then I started I felt another thing in my heart. Hey, start building this game, and started that journey as well. But I guess all of that, you could say, oh, so you're speaking positive. Yeah, but to me personally, and this is just where I came from, my mom always took me to church, and church is not it for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. I totally understand people's perspective on things, but I can say that besides the people and besides all these things that we all hear and deal with what the church is, which is absolutely true sometimes, but there was a foundation there of, hey, speak life over your situations. There was words I heard that were truth. So to me, I always say, whether people believe or not, there are truthful things in that old ancient book, that people sometimes don't understand. And even I didn't understand at times, but I knew, all right, there's something here. Let me see if this works. Let me test it. And then when it started working, I couldn't deny what it was doing in my life, the truth in this. And obviously you have to balance out certain things with what you read and what you feel. But for me, that's been a foundation for me growing up, staying positive, no matter what. My parents moved from Italy to America way back, and I was born here, but they went through their things. I know for a fact if they didn't have their foundation and their faith, they probably wouldn't have made it either, because you need to cling on to something when you go through tough times. And that passed on to me and passed on to, my brothers. So staying positive comes from just, if I had a choice to be negative or positive, why would we as human beings choose negative? There's no benefit. At least a positive, there's a benefit. Even if something doesn't come or something does come, by just staying positive, you're going to enjoy your experience better as you're making your way towards your destination. So to me, that's always been there. And it's honestly has gotten me through these 3 years of development craziness, because I've had to speak life over my situation and say, all right, this week I'm going to figure out why this game's not working or why this bug is happening. I'm going to do it. There's nobody encouraging me there. Well, my wife's always been there encouraging me, but there was no friend. There is no friend really good, and as things are opening, there are more opportunities to bond with more people. But through the darkness that I experienced, that positivity, the life-giving word, brought the game to where it is now. So even now today, I'm like, all right, one day a publishing deal's coming. One day this is happening. One day that, you just got to speak that over yourself. Hopefully I'm not running on with this, but it sometimes that positive word, you might not see anything that comes out of it for years, but keep speaking it, keep saying it because it's going to happen. Because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not growing. Just like I always say, a seed planted under the soil. You can't see it, but you got to keep watering it. Do your part. You have no control over the sunlight, but you got to just do your part, and then eventually something will sprout. And then one day you're on Games and Groceries podcast talking about it. So that's full circle.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Man, this is like super encouraging. Like this is a lot of wisdom coming out. Like that was honestly my favorite question so far. And but it actually brings us to our next question. You said that you got your encouragement from the church and Christianity, the Bible. We here at Games and Groceries, we also celebrate the Christian faith too. Me being a full-time youth pastor. I say this to say that 2 of our episodes, we had an episode where we talked about how Christian games couldn't work, but then I wanted to follow up like saying, no, they can work, and we just explain how they can work. We want to ask you of your opinion. What is your opinion of making a Christian video game? Could it work? Could it not work? What are your thoughts?
So off the top of my head, it might sound crazy, but if you're going out to make a Christian game, I'd say it's not going to work in the sense of, I'm a player. I believe if I see the problem is it's the cheesiness, and it has nothing to do with Christianity. There's a lot of mediums out there, whether it's games, movies, the good stuff rises, and if you're just not making good stuff, or what that market considers great and good, it just won't rise. It doesn't matter what you want to slap on and call it. And to me, I have always, from the beginning of this process, I've always gone, I just want to make a great game. I want to make a game I want to play, and I want to put a positive word in it. And if that word stems from experiences that I've experienced and put in there and transitioned, then, those people who will have ears to hear it will hear it. And certain people who won't hear it, it's fine. They're still going to enjoy a good game and say, hey, that was a great story. And there is a positive story. And I think in the end, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I think we just have to make great games, great movies, I'm not even talking about people who are religion based or Christian. It's if it's in you, it should just be in you. And I've seen a couple, I think, Bible based games try to come out and pretty much just failed because the message is being brought in the most boring, troll, cheesy, horrible, like, oh man, I don't even want to play this, and I'm a gamer, and it's like that's the problem. It's like, let's make a game first. What is involved in a game, and then you see it all. I'm sorry to ramble, but you see it all the time with even movies. Like I've seen some faith-based films, and they're absolutely horrendous and cheesy. And it's just bad, and it's like that's just a bad movie. And then I always lean into Tyler Perry. I believe he's a believer, but he's just making a great funny movie, and he's sprinkling in the positive message that he's experienced in his life in there, and everyone could enjoy that movie. It doesn't need to be for someone who's just a believer. It's just a great movie or a great experience, or at least a great structural story. And I don't know if you wanted to, I felt like you wanted to say something on top of that, please. I'd love to dive more into this conversation, but
no, I
completely insight.
No, I completely agree with you. In fact, that's exactly what we said on the podcast. It's not about, is it a Christian game? Is it a not a Christian game? But it has to be just a good game. And on our episode where we talked about can they work, we more came to the conclusion that it should be a game that has the thematics of a Christianity, but with no dialogue. I don't know if you had time to play the game Grease that came out, Devolver Digital.
No, I haven't. I will look it up. I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game. It has so many different moralities and different metaphors within the game, but there's no dialogue. It's just thematic, and that will be a good Christian game because it's just the thematics of a Christian lifestyle. Because once you put in dialogue and once it's like, boom, Christian game, then it becomes like what you said. It becomes cheesy. It doesn't work as a game. But it's exactly what you said. You should focus first on making a good game and then sprinkle onto it what kind of themes do you want to put into it. And I see that evidence in your game, Adam's Ascending. I'm watching the trailers, I'm seeing the gameplay, and I'm seeing that you're making a fantastic game. But I can tell that you're going to be sprinkling some good thematics within the story.
Yeah, it's I'll give you some background of. So it's like, for example, Adam, who's the main character, he's on the search for his father, right? And the sprinkling behind that, for me personally, it's sometimes thank God my father's still around and he's still here and I get to experience him. But I could, just because of the background I've read in growing up and knowing the Bible, and I know there's also in there's a need for the spiritual father. So that's, to me, that's the way I'm trying to lace the words from within in Adam's Ascending in a parable form so people could digest it. So yes, he's in search for his physical father, but there's an underlining tone there that's also helping those who might not have a real father, that they're searching for maybe something beyond that physical, something that will, fill in a gap in their heart. And those are the way, for an example, I'm not even sure if I'm giving enough detail and I don't want to spoil certain things, but that's an example of, hey, here's the positive message. Here's some of the word that I've received in my life, transitioned into a normal story in a normal game. And there's not even one Bible verse dropped in there. There's not, but the theme is there. It's all about theme. It's all about, like I said, tapping back to Metal Gear and Resident Evil. What is the game making you feel? Because in the end, when we're all done with our lives and we're 100 years old, 120 years old, 80 years old, whatever, there's things that people have maybe told you, but you don't even remember one word that they said, but you'll remember the feeling they left you. So in the end, Metal Gear Solid will be a classic in the sense of me growing up and me experiencing it. And I know what it is because I'm deeper in the industry than Jim, who just loves playing games or Fortnite or whatnot. But over time, all these games, no matter how great they are, will fade. And the only thing that will last is the feeling that they gave you. And that feeling we're always looking for it. So 10 years from now, there might be a game that's totally different than Metal Gear, but it's still giving me a feeling that Metal Gear gave me. And I go, wow, I love this. This is, so in the end, hearkening back to the topic, we shouldn't be, I say we, because I'm making a game, but the world shouldn't be trying to jam something down someone's throat. Just make an amazing experience that has, if you're trying to make a Christian game that has, that theme in there, but it's just there where everybody could digest it. It shouldn't, number one, you already failed if you're going, hey, that's a Christian game. You failed. Like, you just need to be making a game. Like, it's like, is your game a horror game? Is it an action adventure? Like, there isn't a category, oh, that's a Christian game. If it is, you're already outside, you're in another universe and you're not even part of what you're trying to make. You're making a Christian game that's in the form of a game to try to convince people to learn the word. Like, it's already a bad foundation to do it that way. So I would always tell anybody who is making a Christian game, stop making a Christian game. Just make a great game that has a positive word in it. And if you're trying to title it as a Christian game, or any type of game, if you want to put a title on it, oh, this game's for this type of community or this type of religion. It's like, you just make a game,
Right
I
on.
keep going back to that. And the message will come across, and you don't have to label it. It's like, stop labeling it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I could keep going on and on, but yeah, I'm getting the heebie-jeebies, man. Like, that's what I'm trying to break with Adam's Ascending. It's like, let's just get a positive message. And there's certain individuals that I have come across, like, hey man, your game's like, I feel like there's some biblical message in there. It's like, yeah, there's something there, but and I'm happy you felt it. But, I just want to make an amazing game. And those people who know the word or don't know the Bible, or who grew up in church, who didn't grow up in church, whatever, like, let's play a game and let's let it move you and change your life forever. That's what I want to do. I want to make a game that makes people get up and go find their own purpose in life, because I've experienced games like that are not even Christian, because again, it shouldn't be that way. It should be the message that I received in a game, and it inspired me. Like, man, I want to make a game like that because it moved me. Let's move people. Let's not jam a message down their throat. Who wants to be told what to do? We want to be shown where to go. If that makes sense.
Most definitely.
Sorry to go on and on.
No, this is fantastic. But we're running a little bit out of time, but we have one more question for you before we get to our next segment. If you can briefly share, Liz, do you want to ask this one?
Yeah, sure. So what are some of the ways you've overcome frustrations or discouragements in game developing?
Yeah, I think some of the ways I got over it is just always telling myself, hey, you're going to get through this. Just like personal life situations I've gone through. Again, I started Adam's Ascending with no idea of how do I even make a player appear on screen? How do I make a camera move when you move the mouse or a controller button? Like, absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the way I overcame that is just staying focused on, all right, let's just set these little goals and go, hey, this week I'm trying to do this. Once I get there, cool. Don't get overwhelmed by the massive project you're trying to take on. Just focus on the little goal. Whether it's, hey, let's get 50 podcasts done this month,
yes.
Or I want to make the character walk, and then after this week, if I get that accomplished, then we'll figure out how he runs, and just keeping it small and simple. Because as soon as you start feeling that heavy burden and that heavy yoke, it's supposed to be easy. No matter what anybody tells you, it's supposed to be fun. And as soon as it's not fun, whatever job you're in, and you feel you walk into work and you're like, man, this is, what am I don't feel it. Then a shift needs to happen, because that means you're not doing what you're supposed to do in your life. And sometimes it's a balance. You got to balance until you're able to completely overcome your situation and wait. There's different seasons in life, but yeah, I just say, just to keep it short and sweet, set mini goals and don't worry about the bigger picture. If you set the mini goals, they'll lead to the bigger picture over time. If I thought about 3 years ago where I was going to be today, I would be so overwhelmed, and the game's like, I went to E3 and showcased the game, and now there's a new challenge that I have to overcome of some new type of gameplay I have to integrate. Yeah, it's challenging, but I go, okay, let's just go back to the foundation and take it one day at a time.
Right on, man. This is a lot of wisdom, man. We definitely appreciate you coming on the show, because everything that you've said about these questions, I feel like our listeners are really going to take away a lot from what's going to be happening. But we appreciate these questions. And now we just want to have a good conversation about you. In our next segment, we're going to be having a conversation about breaking the mold of consumer consumption, or what was it? Content consumption. There was two C words, but content consumption. So let's just jump right into it, into our final segment.
Coffee time.
All right, so now we're going to have a good conversation with Nick DePalo here. we were talking back and forth through email, and I asked him, what kind of discussion do you want to have? What kind of topic do you want to discuss? And immediately he said that I want to break the mold of content consumption, because we all have these expectations for video games and expectations of what they should be and how we should get them. And we want to just have a deeper conversation about what it means to break that mold. So let's first start with that. What does it mean to break the mold of content consumption? So we'll start with you, Nick.
Yeah, I think breaking the mold is literally, I come from a job that always talks about proxies, and proxies are the processes of, we start getting in a routine of how things are, and they start flowing good. So we assume that, this is the way it should always be. But that's when you start dying. That's when things start not working anymore. So you have to always break that process. And to me, breaking that process is, I know there's people who love playing Skyrim, and I have no issue with anybody who loves a long game. But for me in the game industry, I think breaking that mold is, why are we playing 40-hour games? Why is this entertainment 40 hours long? Why are we trying to tell a story that takes 40 hours or 30 hours? And there's nothing bad with that, because I understand there's open world and there's all these different types of genres or games, and we shouldn't be like, another medium. But for me, I think we're still in the age of how cinema used to be, where you used to literally go to see a movie that was I think it was Gone with the Wind, that was like, I can't remember how many hours, but they literally had a break in the middle of the movie that say, okay, one part of the movie's done, come back in 5 minutes. Like an
intermission,
intermission, and then they would come back because it was so chunky. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as cinema grew, it was like, what are we doing? Why is this not an hour and a half? Why is there not act 1, 2, 3 done?
Right.
And I feel, honestly, the industry is, and again, that's just the way you play. No, it's not the way I play, and it has nothing to do with, we're older now, we have less time, blah, blah, blah. Number one, we need to be, if we're story-driven storytellers and we want to, God of War, I think it was last year, won Game of the Year.
Yes.
Game of the Year is supposed to be best story, best gameplay, best everything pretty much. And honestly, I was playing it the other day and I haven't had time, so I picked it up. And I got to a point, it's like, I'm literally doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. I'm done. I can't, even though the story is captivating me, but that's the problem. Story I know I'm going off again on a tantrum, but that's how we break the mold. We can't go, hey, this has to be this long because people are expecting that. Who cares what people are expecting? Blow them away, what if God of War was 2 hours long and it was totally beautiful, different types of gameplay for those 2 hours, so you didn't get bored, and just the story was so compact. We can't tell the story within that time frame. Then you have a horrible story if you can't tell a story within 2 hours. So I think that's how we break the mold, is just let's shatter the way we digest stories. Let's shatter the way we play games. And the last thing I'll say on my part is, what if we got a God of War every year and a half or two? Well, that would be amazing. Well, you know how we do that? By going, hey, let's make a 2-hour game. It's going to take 6-7 months to develop, maybe a year, and then the game's out there, and we could make another one. It's like you see that with the Avengers movies. How many movies they make in 10 years?
Yeah.
Because they were able to go next. Let's keep the story. Instead of making one long Avengers movie, they broke it up over 10 years with everybody's story, everybody's hey, let's make 3 Iron Man movies. Let's make whatever Captain America movies. So they told the story with smaller chunks until you got a whole. The game industry, let's tell the Avengers 10-year story in one game. People would love to play from Iron Man 1 to Avengers Endgame. No, I'd rather have it in bits and pieces and digestible. But yeah, that's my rant on how to break the mold. I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
No, yeah, that's exactly it. It's all about game length, and I have that in my notes as well. Like game length, shorter or longer games. I still remember when Spider-Man PS4 came out, and I believe the time was they said that it was going to take 20 to 25 hours, and people were frustrated. They were saying like, why is it that short? But me, as an adult, the reason why we call it games and groceries is because we're adults. We have other priorities in life. We have to go grocery shopping. There's other time consuming things in our life. And when I heard 20 to 25, I actually breathed. I was like, okay, it's not too long.
I could do it.
Exactly. But yeah, I totally appreciate shorter games. Just recently, and Liz, you watched a bit of me playing it, was Old Man's Journey. And it was about 2 hours long, and it was just this really fascinating narrative of this old man and his life story and where he got there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so breathtaking and beautiful. And it was only 2.5 hours long, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Liz, I think you have that same struggle too, where if a game's too long, you become...
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's crazy that the way that you described it, Nick, because I never thought about it, how long games can be. Like, I just kind of accepted at face value, like, oh, if I want a good story, it's going to be a long video game.
Right.
And I never thought that it could be a different way until the way you explained it was that, like, you know, movies did it, like the Marvel Universe, they separated it, and they still have very solid stories. I'm like, oh, why can't they tell a solid story in 2 hours? Everyone else does it.
Yeah.
Like, and I just never thought about it. So it is, like, kind of breaking that mold of, like, like, oh yeah, you can tell a story in a couple hours. You don't need a 30-hour game to do it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I never thought about it.
Yeah.
And you'll hear the other side of that, where it's like, well, you know, these aren't movies. These are games, video games. But again, the video game industry doesn't know what it is, because the reason we have 20, 30, 40-hour games are because before, when it started, it was kids playing, and now the kids have become adults, and now there's a new genre and a new set of generation of kids playing games. So they're kind of, oh, let's tell story-driven, really narrative-focused games for the adults. But then there's kids out there that still want to play a long game, and they're trying to mold both of them. Where, you know, think about Fortnite. There is no story, but kids are loving it because they go in there 15, 20 minutes, they get an experience, they're out. Okay, let's go. Let's go to school. Let's go. What? It's like, we want fast turnaround content. We don't want this long, lengthy stuff. And even if people are experiencing it, if you gave it to them in a short form and they got to try it, like a God of War or like, you know, a big game, and you said, hey, this is 2 hours, that's all you need. The whole world would riot and go, what? God of War's 2 hours? No. It's like, well, guess what? You're going to get another one in 8 months. And then people are like, oh, okay, I can't wait. This is going to be cool. And it's not about turning out and churning out a franchise. It's just about, let's make a game that everyone could experience. And I know, God bless Santa Monica Studios who makes God of War, but, you know, after 2 hours of playing it, I was like, how many times can I throw an axe? How many times can I upgrade an axe? Wait a couple hours till you get this type of weapon that's going to come. It's like, I'm not waiting a couple hours. Like, let's have character growth within the first act, and then transition when the character, just shorten it, make it more impactful. And how many times can you just kill the same monster over and over? And like you said, that game, what was it? The old man's journey. I'm even looking now on Polygon. It's got 8 out of 10 on Steam, 9 out of 10. Metacritic, I think 75%, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's like people are loving it. It's a small experience, but the problem is industry wants to only talk about these big games because that's what they know. I haven't even heard about this game until you just mentioned it. So I think that's it. It's trying to break the mold by hopefully making Adam's Ascending, making a weapon that could get into the mainstream audience and go, bam, we're going to chop some legs off. This is 2 hours long. Like, what? I want this to be this. I want to unlock this. I want to unlock. It's like, no, those are all things that were created to keep you entertained because games are so long. Like, doing a skill tree has been created to keep entertainment, to keep you hooked because it gets boring. So as soon as it gets boring, you shouldn't go, what can we add here to keep them hooked for another 5 hours? You should go, no, let's just shorten it. That's it. It's that simple.
So if I can ask you, are you aiming to have Adam's Ascending at 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours?
I'm hoping if I could get it down to an hour and a half, I would be happy. But
Wow.
I want it to. I think it really depends how you play it. You know, I have tons of levels, but I'm even getting to the point now where I go, well, do I need these levels? Like I've created tons of them that, you know, wrap around the whole island that you're on. But I'm asking myself as a storyteller, are these levels necessary to tell the story, or they're just being put in there to give the player more to do so they feel like, hey, I paid this much, now it's a 6-hour game, I feel good about my purchase. Well, why don't we just reduce the price of the game and you'll be happy? You know, it's like it's really that simple. But yeah, I'm aiming for a movie experience in the sense of length. I want because that's what I want to play, you know, and to digest. So, you know, they always say create something that you'll love and others will love it too. And I'm starting to see that.
No, I completely agree with that. Making your own content that you would also consume. That's exactly what we're doing for the podcast, is that would I listen to this podcast? How would I want to structure it the way I would want to listen to it? Because talking about breaking the mold of content consumption, you don't really think about what do you want to play as the developer or as the content creator. You're thinking about like, what does the general public expect me to make? How can I make the general public understand? And it should be coming from you, because marketing 101, I believe, is that if you have a desire for something, then somebody on planet Earth also has that same desire. So why not just do it like that?
No, yeah. And it's crazy to tap into that idea of, you know, instead of, you know, they're seeing it as, oh, the market wants this, which is fine because you become so big that you want to keep your market. But even, you know, I went to E3 and got to experience a demo session, someone playing Adam's Ascending, and I got some great feedback, but it was feedback of, hey, you know, maybe we could tighten up the weapons here and do this. I could see this being, and then I asked myself, I said, hold on, is this game trying to be a shooter? No. So why am I going to go now do all this work to try to improve this? I need to just grab this, throw it in the trash can, because the game was always about exploring, solving, and surviving. It wasn't about shooting, repeat, shoot, repeat, shoot, repeat. And it's so easy that you go down that road because you are always influenced sometimes by what you play, what you see. And it's hey, man, maybe people would like this. I need to add this. But then in the end, it's like, does that take away from what you're trying to create? And if the answer is yes, then, you know, that shouldn't be in there. So it's pretty amazing. You got to kind of, when you start getting all this feedback from a lot of people, it could influence you, or it can, you know, facilitate and build make you stick to what you really want to make it and go, okay, I don't want it to mold and change into that, what others want. And there's a balance. You want to give a gaming vibe to a product, but you also want to keep it your own. And I think, I'm not sure if I'm a big Metal Gear / Hideo Kojima fan.
Yeah.
And I know he's listening to this, so what's up, man?
Yeah, right. I would love it if he's listening to it, because we always talk about Death Stranding. So I hope he's listening.
That would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. And I think Death Stranding is a small example of that, of going, you know what, as what it seems like right now, it's like, hey, you're an individual carrying packages. Cool. Yeah. Have we seen that in game before? No. This is why it's good. Then let's just make it 2 hours, you know, and make it shorter and not fill it in with all these other things. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, he's not going for, hey, let's make another stealth game that involves guns and bullets. Like, yeah, there's guns and things like that I've seen in trailers, but it seems to be very focused on, you know, a different style of gameplay, which is going to hopefully be interesting.
Yeah, I want to talk about story narratives and the importance of narrative. You're very vocal about compelling narrative. You're very for narrative over gameplay. So Liz, I want to ask you, actually, because you actually got into gaming from Life is Strange. Life is Strange is heavy on narrative. Why is it that you wanted that compelling narrative over gameplay when it comes to video games?
Because when I first started, I wasn't very good at the combat parts of games. So I didn't get into them because I was just so bad at them. I'm just like, forget it. I'm not doing this because like I'm a pretty patient person in regular day things and waiting for things. But when it comes to technology and things, I am not a patient person. So if I don't get it right away, if it's not working, I'm just like, forget it. I'm done. So Life is Strange was very attractive to me because I didn't have to be good at anything.
Right.
I could take my time and do what I needed to do and still progress in the game without having to be like amazing at aiming and shooting or fighting someone or like being able to move my hands quick.
And they were only 2-hour long episodes.
Yeah, and they're shorter episodes, so it's not like I have to sit there and be like, oh, do I want to end now?
Right.
Or no. It's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot easier to begin gaming, and now I'm getting better at the combat and shooting and things like that. But definitely when I started, I was god awful. So Life is Strange was a good start.
No, absolutely. I think they do something great with the idea of, telling a story in a simple way and not, totally making it impossible to experience. But I think that's also been a barrier for entry in the game industry, where it's like, here's these 2 sticks, here's these 75 buttons, and enjoy,
Yeah.
And it's like, what? It's like, the basics should be move forward and go here and click that. And I know everybody has different levels of gaming. So, but yeah, I agree 100% where narrative to me, narrative is king over gameplay. I know some people are probably already like, what? But it always has been. Narrative's been around before games existed, before movies existed. It's the foundation of, in our own lives, whether we know it or not, we have our own narrative. Hey, I'm going here in my life. I have to get there in my life, and these are obstacles I'm facing. Your life is a narrative.
Yeah.
If it was just a gameplay, we'd be like, oh, I'm going to cruise around in my Ferrari every day and enjoy like just cruising around on the beach. That gets boring because that's like the gameplay aspect. Well, where are you trying to go to? It's great to drive a Ferrari and drive around the beach and feel great and feel good, but if you have no reason of where you're trying to go to with your Ferrari, or I know that's a crazy analogy, but if that makes sense.
Yeah,
no, it does.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no drive.
Yeah, because narrative is pulling you into the game world. I believe that gameplay is more of the icing on the cake, but if you just have icing, it's just like a sugary mess, right? Whereas, I mean, cake is a sugary mess, but that's beyond the point. But if you don't have that good, solid narrative that's within the gameplay, then it's just going to be a soggy mess. You just have a video game rather than a compelling story that wants to have you continue. Right now I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I feel like I'm reading a book, like page by page. It's a longer game, but I feel like I'm turning the pages of a really good book. And it's the narrative that's really pulling me into the game world, and I'm absolutely digging the narrative of the game.
Yeah, that game has a great narrative and great twists and turns, and that's the carrot dangling in front of the player. If that wasn't there, you'd just be going around shooting robot dinosaurs and be like, what's the point of this? You'd be bored with it pretty quick, even though the boredom doesn't hit you because you're like, oh, here's a T-Rex, here's this, here's that, and you're experiencing all these different types of enemies. But once you go through them all and you're just a character wandering the world, that's I feel I can't really tap into that, but there's a sense of, even us as humans, depression kicks in sometimes too when we don't know what we want, or we don't know where we're going, we don't know who we are. When you're just going in a loop, you feel lost. But as soon as you put a goal in front of you, you'll start seeing that grime, that darkness go away, and you go, okay, I'm marching forward towards this thing. What are the steps I need to do to get there? And that's what narrative does. But yeah, I think 100% compelling narrative totally pulls you into the world of a game that gameplay can't do.
So one thing I want to bring to this conversation, and I really want to get your feedback on this, You also say in your videos and anytime you're speaking that game developers have this sort of responsibility to break the mold. They have this responsibility to do their own narrative, make their own games. However, one thing I feel like all of our listeners and our viewers should understand is that not only do the developers have this responsibility, but we as consumers, we as the ones who are consuming the content, right, also have a responsibility to break this mold. So I guess what we should end on here, well, there's one more thing I want to end on, but second to last, I'm organized, but how can we as followers, how can we as video gamers, right? How can we be more responsible with breaking the mold? How can we be more respectful towards game developers?
So
you can go as hard as you want, by the way.
Yeah, it's a question. Repeat it one more time, just so it gives me a second to soak it up even more.
Yeah, how can we as gamers, how can we as content consumers be more respectful for developers? How can we be more respectful on Twitter? How can we be more inspiring and encouraging to developers rather than just Twitter thrashing you?
Yeah, it's tough. I think from my perspective, even when games have come out and I see a feed and people are just trashing it, I guess one example is kind of like Days Gone, which, has had some critical hiccups, but it seems like it's selling like crazy and doing well. And then you're also seeing some people in comments trash it and, frame rate. And my perspective, I go, man, you have no idea what goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. And now that I do, I have understanding and respect for what they're creating. And I think that's the core is try to wrap, and it's hard. People just want to tweet and put a message out instantly like you suck, instead of thinking we have to see their perspective. No matter how bad a game looks, or if No Man's Sky is an example, like, oh, it doesn't have all these things, you guys are trash. It's like, hey man, you know how much work it is? I think at the time 4 to 6 people were making this. You know how much hard work to create entertainment for you is, and it's okay if you don't lock it in and get it perfect, but let's encourage these individuals instead of breaking them down. Be like, hey, you did great. Let's do an encouraging word first before we give a negative. Hey, you did great. This is awesome. Hey, can we, and just be gentle, can you guys try to go in this direction when you guys can? It's a lot of work. You're balancing a million things. And, I've seen it myself, during the showcase and Adam's Ascending trailer drops, and I know its flaws and its successes. And, when you get some people seeing and go, oh man, this is horrible. I don't care if it's from one person and frame rate's horrible. And it's like, yeah, I know it's tough, but I'm going to get to that. Trust me. And it's, I guess we have to just see the other person's point of view and not just be the consumer and going, well, I want this and this is how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially depending on the team. When we're talking about a 300, 400 person team, you have a little more, say of like, hey, this shouldn't come out of the factory looking like this. It should be better, no matter what. There's no excuses.
Yeah.
But I think it's just respect, if that makes sense. Seeing the other perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we as podcasters now we're nowhere near game development. That takes so much time. In fact, we tried to do game development and then I became impatient and I stopped, but we really wanted to be within the gaming world. And even just developing a good podcast takes a lot of work. And whenever somebody just gives me the negative rather than what they enjoyed about it, it just becomes, well, how am I supposed to listen to you if you're just negative about it?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure you've come across that. And I love what you said. Just be gentle about it. And yes, give an encouraging word and then be gentle about the negative. Right. Liz, have you ever come across that in your creations?
Not so much in my creations, but just in general. I mean, my tolerance for rude.
Right. Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, I have zero tolerance for rude people. Like, my mind explodes when I encounter rude people. So I kind of agree with, like, be gentle about it. Like, you can comment on what you dislike about the game without being a total jerk about it. Just be like, hey, like, again, like, being that, and, like, give a comment, like, it seems like you put a lot of work into this game, but I'm just not feeling it. You know, is this something that's going to be changed in the future? Like, just say it a bit nicer. There's always a better way to say something, you know? So that's my take on being a little nicer about it. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
And just a kind of last point is just, you know, I've noticed too, a lot of people like talking, but you know, it's all about, sometimes you just got to go quiet and say, you know what, I'll show them, I won't tell them. And in life, we have to be examples. So, you know, No Man's Sky, again, they went into a black hole and they said, we're going to make this better. They didn't even respond to tweets. And a year later, they've totally changed their game around. And everyone's like, wow, this is the greatest comeback story ever, you know?
Right.
They knew what their vision was from the start. So sometimes you're always, you know, it's life. There is a negative, a positive, you know, that's just how it is. And are you going to let that negative fuel you? Obviously, we would love it to be a lot more gentle, but you know, when it does come in, let's just stay focused on, for everyone, even, you know, you got to stay focused on the goal, and then they'll see the outcome later, you know?
So we're running a little bit out of time, but I don't want to end this podcast or this conversation without ending on inspiration, encouragement, because Nick, you're such an inspiring person. You're such an encouraging person who just wants to spread positivity and let people achieve their dreams. So I think the last point that we can make briefly is how can we as individuals be more inspiring, whether it be in podcasting or game development? So Nick, we'll start with you. How can we be more inspiring with game development?
With game development, I'd say it's hard to be just so specific. We could be more inspiring with game development by just, I think, being more open and really, you know, we always see from the outside that this is some big closed door and this thing happens in a black hole somewhere, and then it's in your gaming console and you're playing it. I think we could be more inspiring by showing our faults and showing, hey, look where we came from. Look how we started. Where this is where we're trying to go. And I think in general, even outside of game development, I say, you know, me and my buddy always talk about this. Is it life giving or life taking? What are you putting out there? Whether it's what you're chasing in your own life, whether it's you making a game, is it encouraging others to chase their dream, or are you just trying to make something so big that you could crush others? And in the end, we're literally, I've been on film sets. I've seen the best of the best, and we're all people. We're all people who are all at the same level. It doesn't matter how big a project they're working on, how small a project. We are absolutely going through the same exact thing in different ways. So I would say uplift the people, open doors. You know, I would tell people, man, when I had nothing, I was so grateful for when the door opened for me that now I want to open doors for people. Like, I can't wait to get to the point of being able to hire employees so I could be like, oh my God, you have a dream. You're working your butt off. Please, let's do it. Let's do it together. I want to employ you so you could chase your dream. It's not even about, hey, let's get this game done. Yeah, that's the core of it. But it's like, wow, you're getting experience that you could grow. Let's do it.
Right on.
So encouraging people, you know, give life to others, just to be brief.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to get with the podcast, and trying to be inspiring to others and be encouraging. Yeah, we might rant a little bit about the game industry in itself, but we want to bring light to people and bring a smile to people every single week when they hit that play button. You know, we want to make sure that people are like smiling and enjoying life. And whenever we go out to conventions or expos, if we were to get invited to expos, we just want to be people to them. And exactly it, bringing light to people. I would love to get to a point where this podcast gets so big, like what you said, to hire somebody, whether it be in lighting department or making sure that the stream is going okay. because that's their passion, that's their drive, and they want an open door. And I think you're hitting the nail right on the head there. How you can be inspiring no matter what is just opening doors for people, being a human being to others. Liz, do you have any final thoughts on this?
No, I think you guys really covered it, where it's just kind of being able to, once you hit your dream and at a point, just being able to encourage and help others. Even on Twitter, if you go into the writing community, which is what I'm mostly part of on Twitter, it's just everyone's just encouraging each other, following each other, sharing each other's, plots and telling, like, giving advice. It's one of those things that it's just the easiest thing to do to help people and inspire people and let others reach for their dreams. Because I know that we've both experienced people who are just like, I don't care about your dream. That's not practical.
Right.
Go away. So I think, it's just the easiest thing to do.
No, dead on.
And I just want to say, anybody listening, please go after that dream that's burning so deep in your heart, no matter how impossible it looks, no matter how crazy people say it is. Go after it. And don't worry about if it's even you're able to even reach it. Just go, because it's really not even about you. It's about what you're going to do for others and what you're going to do. It's generational. You're going to be doing, by you achieving your dream, it's going to affect maybe the employees that you're going to be providing for their families one day, or and changing other people's lives, or making impact and inspiring the next generation. Greg Miller, God bless the man's heart, he came up to me and this is my final thing about chasing dreams. And I said, thanks for letting me be part of the Kind of Funny showcase. And he said, Nick, this showcase is about that 11-year-old who's going to be watching Adam's Ascending and going, hey, this one guy made a game. I could go make one too. And that's literally why we should be doing what we're doing. And no matter how tough it is, go, because it's going to happen. And when it happens, you're going to inspire someone else to go. You might be inspiring the next Hideo Kojima, the next guy who or girl who's going to make a huge game or movie or script or story. So it's so important and vital that you go do it. So please listen to your heart.
Man, Nick, we're going to end this podcast from there, because I can't beat another line from that. Nick DePalo, such an inspiring person, such an encouraging person. For anybody listening, anybody watching, definitely keep Adam's Ascending on your watch list. Put it on your wish list in Steam. It's going to be, has that deal finalized that it's going to be on PlayStation? I'm not sure if it did or not.
So I'm talking with Xbox, and then after that, we'll see if something good comes out of there. And yes, I've been, again, one-man solo team. The Steam page should be up very soon. So please keep an eye out on that. And if you're wanting to know exactly, you could give me a follow on Twitter at DePalo, DEPALO, and on Instagram, Nick_DePalo. And I'll be posting when things will go live there. But yeah, there are things happening. The dream is to get on Xbox, to get on these major consoles and PlayStation, and it's going to happen,
man. And we definitely want to follow your journey. We're completely inspired that you're on this podcast. I'm just going to say this right now, that I'm dead serious when I say this. This is probably my favorite podcast episode yet. It's just so encouraging. So much wisdom has been shared on this particular episode. And I just cannot wait to play this game, Adam's Ascending. You don't have to say when there's a release date, but I definitely want to keep in touch with you and just talk about the journey some more, and definitely have you on the podcast again once development goes even more. We want to hear about this journey, man. We definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor, a pleasure, and I hope I'm here one day after coming off the E3 stage at Xbox's stage or PlayStation stage, doing a big announcement and coming back on the podcast and being like, hey, so thank you.
Coming as like a, yeah, man. Oh man. It's just super encouraging, man. We thank you for sharing this wisdom again. Thank you again for coming on the show. I think we're going to end it here. We want to remind you again to follow Nick. As he said, it's at DePalo on Twitter. That's DEPALO. DePalo. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, we have his face right around here. You can see how it's being spelled. You can also follow the Games and Groceries. It's at Gaming Groceries, or you can follow us individually. I'm at Ace the Grocer.
And I'm at Journey First.
So you can also follow us there and follow us on Instagram, Games and Groceries, all one word. Also, check out our website, gamesandgroceries.com, where you can listen to all the episodes from there, and as well as find out where you can listen to the episodes. And finally, if you're listening to us on the audio version, definitely give us a rate and a review. And tell us what you thought about this episode. Definitely share your thoughts. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment down below. Like this episode. Definitely share what you thought about Nick's amazing wisdom that he gave here. So we'll end it here. Nick, thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on here. Do you have any final thoughts?
Chase your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. And just follow. If your heart's burning, follow that burning sensation all the way to the promised land that's been put in your heart, and you're going to do it. I promise you. There's no doubt in my heart. Just do it. Chase your dreams.
Right on, man. We thank you for listening to this week's episode. We hope to have you again next week. Have a great week.